While headlines focused on tariffs and trade disputes, a deeper transformation was underway in China. Once the world's factory, China began a strategic pivot, not just reacting to U.S. pressure, but reshaping its destiny. For decades, America innovated and consumed while China produced and saved, fueling growth for both. But Beijing saw the vulnerability in this model. True power comes from creating and consuming at home. The new goal transition from workshop to technology lab and consumer powerhouse, securing its future from foreign shocks. Massive investments in science, technology, and domestic markets followed, aiming for a self-sustaining economic ecosystem. This wasn't isolation, but a redefinition of global engagement, ensuring prosperity wasn't hostage to Washington's decisions. Now, in 2025, China's parallel system, with its own rules, technologies, and partners, is visible to the world. This shift challenges the U.S. and its allies, forcing a rethink of global power. The era's defining story is this great divergence: two giants, two paths into the future. The U.S. trade war aimed to curb China's rise with tariffs, disrupting factories and supply chains. Instead of submission, the shock became a catalyst, accelerating China's pivot toward self-reliance. The pain exposed the risk of depending on American markets and technology, galvanizing a national mission for independence. Companies faced existential crises, but the government reframed the struggle as a necessary trial by fire. The trade war justified the very policies Washington opposed, a state-led push for technological and economic autonomy. Rather than opening up on U.S. terms, China turned inward, building resilience and a new growth model. The tariffs meant to weaken China became the forge for its new strategy. The conflict didn't break China, it hardened it, setting the stage for a new era of competition. Now, China plays by its own rules, many of which it's writing itself. The trade war's unintended legacy: a stronger, more independent China. China's answer to external pressure was the dual circulation strategy, a blueprint for economic resilience. The core two circuits. Internal circulation focuses on domestic production and consumption as the main growth engine. This marks a shift from export-led growth to cultivating a vast, vibrant consumer base at home. Policies now boost disposable income and social safety nets, encouraging spending over saving. The aim: a self-sustaining loop where Chinese companies serve Chinese consumers, reducing reliance on foreign markets. Yet, China isn't closing off. The external circuit seeks resilient, diversified global engagement on China's terms. By securing supply chains and exporting high-value goods, China gains leverage and influence. The strategy reduces vulnerability to sanctions while making the world more dependent on China's market. Dual circulation is about stability at home and strategic advantage abroad. It's China's grand design for thriving in a world where old certainties no longer apply. The world's factory is now its own best customer, and a global power in its own right. At the heart of China's independence is a relentless drive for technological supremacy. The trade war exposed China's reliance on U.S. microchips and software, sparking a national push for self-sufficiency. Massive investment in AI, 5G, and semiconductors followed, with companies like Huawei and Baidu leading the charge. Digital infrastructure, cashless payments, smart cities, became the backbone of China's economy and a model for others. This digital ecosystem fuels AI development and policy efficiency, creating a formidable Great Wall of technology. China's goal: a complete, independent tech stack, from chips to applications, setting new global standards. The U.S. still leads in some areas, but China is closing the gap fast, especially in commercializing new tech. The race for technological dominance is now the central front in U.S.-China rivalry. While strengthening at home, China is reshaping the world beyond its borders. The Belt and Road Initiative is more than infrastructure. It's a strategy to build new trade, investment, and political alliances centered on Beijing. By financing ports, railways, and digital networks, China creates new markets and secures resources, reducing reliance on U.S.-controlled routes. Politically, it builds goodwill and dependency, forging a coalition that can counter American influence. The Digital Silk Road exports Chinese tech standards, embedding them in partner nations' infrastructure. New financial institutions and trade blocs offer alternatives to Western-led systems, fragmenting the global order. China is methodically constructing a parallel system, brick by brick, cable by cable. It's a quiet revolution, building a world less dependent on American leadership. China's strategic pivot is shifting the global balance of power. The era of unrivaled American dominance is over. U.S. influence is now contested and receding in many regions. China's rise doesn't mean America's immediate decline, but it ends its status as the sole superpower. The world's economic and political center of gravity is moving east, with profound consequences. U.S. tools like sanctions and dollar dominance are weakening as China builds alternatives. American companies face fierce competition from Chinese rivals, even at home. The old assumptions of U.S. foreign policy no longer hold, forcing a difficult reckoning. The global economy is fracturing into competing blocs, with two distinct technological ecosystems emerging. Multinationals and smaller countries must now choose sides in this new, fragmented world. Seamless globalization is giving way to rivalry between two giants. We've entered a multipolar world, no longer a simple US-China binary, but a complex, unpredictable landscape. China's model of state-led capitalism and long-term planning stands in contrast to the West's divided, short-term politics. For many developing nations, China's approach is increasingly attractive, offering an alternative to Western liberal democracy. The US and its allies must rethink strategy, not preserving the old order, but competing and cooperating where possible. This means investing in domestic strengths and revitalizing alliances for a united front. Some global challenges, climate, pandemics, require US-China cooperation, despite rivalry. The future is unwritten, but the choices made now will shape the global order for generations. China is building a world where it can thrive, with or without America's blessing. The great question: how will the US and the world adapt to this new reality? The post-American world has begun. Its shape depends on what we do next.